Hello and welcome. I'm Jake Plenderleith, Editorial Manager for the ICA, and today I'll be talking to Anti-Money Laundering Course Director James Wood-Rickett about the way in which AML systems and controls can be strengthened within firms. Hi, James.
Hi, Jake. Thanks for having me.
So let's provide a bit of context to today's discussion, which has been inspired by a case last month where the FCA fined Commerzbank London almost £38 million for failing to have in place sufficient AML systems and controls between October 2012 and September 2017. And the FCA actually raised three important points in regard to this with Commerzbank. They were a lack of timely periodic due diligence being performed on clients, weaknesses in its automated monitoring tool for money laundering risk in client transactions, which were long-standing problems, and inadequate policies and procedures when it came to conducting due diligence on clients. Now, we should mention straight away that Commerzbank actually cooperated with the FCA and saw a reduction in their penalty as a result. But we're interested in drawing out the wider issues with regards to AML systems and controls within financial services. So, James, do you think that these kind of issues are more prevalent in financial services than we realise?
It's a very interesting question, Jake, when we consider, are these issues more prevalent in the financial services sector? My views are quite broad on this sense. And the first consideration I would say is maybe we have that interpretation because the financial services sector is arguably one of the biggest sectors here in the United Kingdom, and particularly in London, where we talk about from money laundering perspective. But the second thing to consider is it's very highly regulated. That doesn't mean to say that controls are necessarily any better in other sectors, such as the real estate sector or the law sector. It's because of that level of scrutiny. You made an interesting point, which I think it's really key to draw out. You mentioned Commerzbank and the senior management actually cooperated with the regulator in order to reduce their fine. I think what you will see is that because there are more issues that come to light, that actually we see more cooperation with the financial services sector. And as a result, we see publications like we saw last month and that fine.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the cooperation is an important point, and it speaks to broader issues such as culture, which I think you'd probably agree is really important when it comes to making sure that AML is as robust as it can be within firms.
Culture is huge. And when we consider, I think we all traditionally think of the three line of defense model. You know, your first line, it tends to be your front line staff. Your second line is where your compliance function sits, and your third line as your internal audit. But overseeing the whole thing is senior management. Now, many years ago, compliance maybe didn't have a seat at the top table. And if they did have a seat at the top table, they were very sort of restricted in what they can talk about. But the culture shift has been huge, Jake. Now, senior members of banks, chairmen, chairwomen, often come to compliance first. So this shows you how much they are treating, how serious they are taking these compliance implications. And I think looking at some of the big fines over the last 10 years, you know, the HSBC 1.9 billion, BNP Paribas 8.9 billion, and of course recently the Commerzbank fine, all these institutions are learning from their past mistakes. That's the most important aspect. And for me, it's culture that's driving that new approach.
Absolutely. I think in connection with culture, we also have kind of education and training, which kind of feed into it, helps reinforce some of these messages and measures. But do you think there's any other effective ways that firms can help shore up their AML systems and controls?
Yeah, great question again, Jake. I think continuous stress testing of their systems. So it's fantastic having an effective sanction screening tool, but are you sure that that sanction screening tool is updated on a frequent basis? Are you ensuring that you have the right level of escalations? Do you have individuals who are experienced and qualified enough to look at these alerts? And are you having these alerts stress checked as well? Because the cost of getting it wrong is obviously severe in some circumstances. But I think we also have another part to play. again, when we're considering monitoring for anti-money laundering or fraud or sanctions, many people actually sit and work in front of customers. So you can have some of the best systems and controls in place, but sometimes education of these individuals that sit directly in front of customers is really powerful. You've got the blend of the policies and procedures that are supporting you, and you also have that knowledge that you are giving to those individuals to make informed decisions. And those individuals could actually be responsible for stopping the next big regulatory fine. So education is right at the top of the pile in my list on priorities.
I think you're absolutely right, and the idea to critically analyze information and decision making processes are absolutely fundamental to making sure that anti-money laundering is as robust as it possibly can be. In line with that, is there a key takeaway that you think perhaps senior management of regulated firms can draw from this case?
Yeah, another great question, Jake. Look, I think that first thing to recognise is that the culture and my experience of going to many financial institutions and speaking to their leadership team, the culture is completely different, but it can't stop there. Criminals continue to evolve and develop mechanisms in which they can abuse the financial system to launder the proceeds of crime. So it's all about not just looking at what has happened, but also looking forward as to how we can predict these crimes and stop them. So making sure that our systems are robust, and we as a team, a financial crime compliance team, we are agile in our approach as well.
Absolutely. So thank you, James, for joining me today to chat about this, and we hope to see everybody again soon.
Thank you, Jake.